So I decided to get on here and do another video. I have not felt good today. I have had one of my depression spirals to where luckily, I was off work today, but have been dissociating, and I did that a lot earlier today. I couldn't sleep well. That happens. Like, I was really sleepy too, but slept maybe a good 3 hours, and I just couldn't stay asleep. And then when I did get up, I ended up wanting to dissociate. I was going to write in my journal, and I didn't. And when I say I have these depression spirals, uh, they're just not fun. It has to do with the depression, gender dysphoria, and it can get bad to where lately I've been going back into thoughts of not wanting to be here, and and it's morbid, but this is how I get to sleep sometimes too. If I'm having trouble getting to sleep, I've done this before in the past with depression cycles where to get to sleep, to find some peace, I will say, I don't have to be here tomorrow. There's nothing saying I have to stay here. I'm sure you all get my drift. There's nothing saying that, you know, I have to be in the world. So a lot of times it'll help me sleep. I'll be in peace knowing that, because I know that that is the one thing I have total control of. I have control of whether I'm here or not. So I will tell myself that, because the pressures of what I go through, and I'm sure many of you can relate. If you just deal with depression, if you deal with severe depression, you can relate to it. But if you deal with gender dysphoria too, I'm sure there's a lot of you have already commented on my page on a couple of videos. So I know there's some that relate to it. Well, I just know there's tons of people with gender dysphoria in general that go through this. You go through this up and down spiral. You can with acceptance, depression, thinking about your next move, your next steps to try to alleviate the dysphoria, what you're going through, and thinking. Sometimes I think too much. This is something my psychiatrist is working with me on now, is that you can't worry about doing things for people out there. I mean, yeah, you deal with that. You deal with society. You deal with judgment. For me, I would try to take steps to be as cautious about how if I transition, I would be careful to take steps in a way that would be as smooth as I possibly could do it. I don't know how smooth you can do it. I guess it depends on each of our circumstances, but I just know dysphoria has worsened on me. It's like I look at myself in the mirror. It's been like that for a while, but it just seems to be worse. I look at myself in the mirror, and that incongruency of what I see and what I want to actually be able to see, it has worsened. So it's like not recognizing yourself. And might have some coffee too. I know I do that a lot on these videos. And Santa cup too. I just like this cup. But anyway, my train of thought's just not so good. But just going through dark time. And today it was the same way, so I needed to do a couple of errands. And I did. I forced myself to go out to the store, but before I could do that, I had to shave. So I didn't have to shave, but see, that's the gender dysphoria. Just a little bit of a little bit facial hair. I don't want that growing out, even though I still have a little bit of shadow or whatever. It's dysphoric to have it growing out. So, I have to get I didn't have to work today, but I still, if I was going to go out, it's like, okay, I'm not going to feel right if I don't shave. So I did. And I was going to go out a little bit sooner before sundown, but because I thought about trying to go to the park. I used to go to the park a lot. But see, these are things that depress me too. Like up at the park I'd go to, it used to be kind of isolated, a lot of woods around it. But now, this area I live in with all the tourism, this area I'm at used to not be touched much by it, but now everything's spreading out and corporations are just relentless. And I'm sure it goes on a lot in the rest of the world, but I think, of course, I live in the United States, so I think of living here personally of how corporations are. And let's just tear down everything, especially when you're in a tourist area. They just want to take more and more and more and more land until it's all gone. Unless it's federally protected, but as long as it's not, they don't give a damn. They will tear it all down. So they're building all these multi-story apartments along the back of the park where they've tore down all the trees. And it used to be a lot of nice isolated areas back there where you go, back there and sit. You go back there and be to yourself. I mean, other people went back there, but you could be spread out from everybody. Now they're making this to where they're just tearing down everything to where these apartments are all built right on the border of it, multi-story, and people, I guess they're just going to build it to where they can just walk right into the back of the park. Now, where all this used to be more woods and open grass, and you're just ruining it. Not totally ruining it, but they are ruining it to a certain level. So I didn't go. I drove by it. I wanted to see the progress, and I was like, this is just terrible. So anyway, then I had thought about going to the cemetery. There's a cemetery I really love to go to, one of my favorites. I have a video in my shorts. Well, I have 2 videos in my shorts right now that I kept up. One, I'm driving through there. You can see it if you want. And another one, when I used to do paranormal investigation, there's one on my shorts where I'm doing a spirit box thing in that cemetery. It's called Pollard. And a lot of old graves in there. I'd say at least going back to the early 1800s. And at least it's way off. You got to go down a road a ways away from where all this other crap I'm telling you about they're building. But so it is isolated more. And there's just been many times I've went to that cemetery to think for peace, to walk around. Of course, I've discussed before, I believe in spirits. I believe in the paranormal because I've experienced so much in the paranormal. And I believe there's a lot of energy there in cemeteries in general. And I'm not going to get too deep into it in this video, but I'm not saying spirits are just stationary in the cemetery. I don't think they stay there with their bodies. I tend to think they can be portals where spirits can come in and out of places like that. There's a lot of energy in them. But I didn't go because I waited too close to sundown, and I drove past the park. I went to the store, and I felt okay because I had shaved, and I didn't want to do my hair or anything, so I just had my hat on low. I do that a lot of times too if I'm forcing myself to get out the door, unless I'm going to work. I brush my hair and things like that. I'm getting on here most of the time I do. Except my last video, I had my hat on. Anyway, I felt okay while I was out, but not great. And that's the same when I got home today. I haven't felt great. And I discussed in the last video, what do I do to dissociate? I don't do things horribly destructive, but still, they're things that eat up time, that don't have me confront my issues more, to where I can make more of a forward making decision. And that came with edging. I talked about in the last video. So I just don't have to think about anything else. And it came for other people. It could be that. It could be video games. But it could be much worse things. It could be drugs. And I've been down that road too, with like addictions to over-the-counter drugs and alcohol, things of that nature. So it's not as bad as all of that now, but I still get, regardless, I get to where I still feel really bad. I still feel really depressed. My psychiatrist said she anticipated this, and I think it's just because she knows that this can be a cycle with what I go through with the dysphoria and everything. It's something that she has other patients like me, gender dysphoric and trans, and I think she just knows there's these cycles that happen, so she was anticipating it's just another cycle. Now, I try to look back though, have I improved overall? Yes, and I try to look at that. When I went to therapy, give you an idea, last July, I was in a bad hole. I mean, I could not hold a job, and I was isolating just about all the time, because I had only really talked to one person that I knew about this dysphoria at all at that time, and I just at the jobs, I've discussed that before, that dealing with the narcissist at these tourist jobs, these hotels and these attractions, and the homophobia that goes on in these places, and even transphobia that goes on even from the gay people that work in these attractions. I didn't think that existed until I experienced how they would talk about how gay people would talk. Well, it was really just the gay men I would work with that would talk about trans individuals and talk about them in a bad light. So that was another thing, dealing with all of these different situations in these workplaces. And I just got so, it's like I've said before, a lifetime of different traumas and different things throughout my life, leading up to where I'm at now, at almost 50. Will be 50 this year, coming up end of August. And I did tell my psychiatrist in the last session last week that, well, a few days ago when I saw her, that I really would like to be able to make a forward decision on transitioning by that birthday. Really, a few months before that birthday would be preferable if I could get myself. I feel like I got to get through this phase, because I'm realizing this is worsening. And I talked about it last video, but I guess I get on here to emphasize it. I'm just taking you all on a journey with me. I'm in the unknown just like you are, with me. I'm sitting here telling you what I go through, but I don't have any clear answer as to what I'm giving you ideas of what I want to do, what I'm trying to do, but I guess I'm just on here chronicling as I go along where I'm going. And it's just been really hard. I've had some good support here, though, I will say, for the most part. I'd say 99% of you are great, and I thank you for your comments. And I know I have one on here that, there's one person on here that comments me quite a bit, and she was saying to me just like what my psychiatrist said to me about in this last session too. Like, well, she said to me, she said, "Are you worried? Wait, don't worry about." Well, she said, "Don't worry about don't worry about what all these people think, because it's your life ultimately, right? It's your life. You have to deal with yourself. You have to live with yourself. You have to function with yourself." And I don't have kids, and I don't have a spouse, and I don't have all of that. But of course, I think most of us do internalize certain things, like if we have living parents and any other family and the way they're conditioned to think. And it's hard not to internalize these things. But ultimately, what my psychiatrist said, and what my friend on here says, that comments a lot with me or speaks with me, and that's I'm grateful for that. For any of you that want to share your stories or share any helpful advice, any of that. But anyway, it's just they were saying not to worry so much about it all, because those people don't know me. I don't know them. They don't know my life story. I mean, they know what I tell you on here, but they don't know me on a personal level. And trolls, it's the same thing. You know, trolls have issues to go trolling other people. I've discussed that many times. But still, as human beings, I think we just have the tendency sometimes to, especially with these serious matters of changing your life in such a serious way, it can be easy, I think, to internalize how society's going to treat you. Especially, we can't ignore the political climate, and it depends on where you live out in the world. But things are in kind of a crazy way right now in the United States for I would say for transgender, things like that. I'm not going to get much into that at the moment, but any of you going through the things I'm going through, you live in the United States, you know what I'm talking about. You know the things that probably some of the things I refer to. But you think about all of these things in society and just how hard it might be. Okay, so anyway, today I was just going through more of those thoughts of deletion, and it just brings me peace. When I got home from the store, I sat in my car. I've done this before. It sounds weird, I guess, but I sat in my car, and I know it's dark, but I was like, what is this all for? I got through situations where I could have passed away in 2010, almost passed away in a hospital from it was a combination of over-the-counter drug addiction, the heavy stimulant use, and I would say combined with eating disorder, and which I basically wasn't eating, and alcoholism at the time. Had a day-long coma, survived. I've talked about that in another video more extensively on here, but I think I called that video the personality collapse of 2010 maybe, but I could have easily passed away from blackouts from alcohol. Many times I had blacked out, was left alone. I survived those situations, and when I think of those situations, you can go on a side tangent here. You know me, guys. I just talk on these videos, and I'll talk for a while. But I think of Amy Winehouse, and that's how she passed away. And I could have easily I don't know how many times I was left alone in my past years where I drank and was self-destructive, and sometimes on those stimulants too, and drinking, and would just black out and be left after a party or left after people were around and nobody's there, and I wake up hours later in the floor, don't remember half of what anything happened, just blacked out, but woke up. How many people don't wake up? And I think of Amy Winehouse because she's one of my favorite ladies, one of my favorite musicians, and one of the many women that I admire. A lot of women. I know Amy now. Don't get me wrong, I know she had a lot of issues, but I can relate to her. Can't relate to the celebrity, but I can relate to her body issues and her eating disorder issues and the alcoholism, things like that, her moods. She's relatable in a lot of ways, but also I admire so many women, and that also has to do with me wanting to be a woman or wanting to live as a woman, and I feel a kinship. So I look to so many women as now I look to a lot of different women in admiration, I find different things I admire about them, like with Amy, her talent. I can relate to things she went through to a certain level. Love her makeup, would love to do makeup like her, would like to look. There's a lot of women I'd love to look like. It's just the way it is, it's just the way I think. Love the way Amy did her little wings on her eyes, and would love to be able to do that. Do some of these little things that I see women do, like her. But I was thinking about how Amy passed, and I could have passed like that so many times. She blacked out and wasn't found until it was too late. She just didn't wake up. And I was lucky at the times I had done that, because there had been times I didn't eat and I drank and whatever and lost a bunch of weight because I wasn't eating. And I would have passed away in 2010. I just barely got an ambulance called to me before I blacked out. I blacked out while the paramedics were at my place. I blacked out. And they were there so they could put fluids in me and stuff. But I still went into a day-long coma, even though they got there, were able to save me. So that's trauma, along with so many other traumas. But I thought to myself, sitting in the car out here in front of my apartment after I got home, I'll do that sometimes. I hadn't done it in a while, just sit in the dark there. Even though I could come inside and do the same thing, but it's just something about being in a different spot, even though it's right outside under the sky, just sitting in the car. It's just, sometimes I can think a little bit, but I was in a morbid train of thought of like, why am I here? Why have I been saved all these times? And just to have gender dysphoria, just to have it in such a strong way now, and to go through what I'm going through. Why did I not just pass away in 2010? Because I wouldn't have known it, because I was in a coma if I wouldn't have come out of the coma, I wouldn't have known it. It'd been peaceful. So, why, I think to myself, well, why couldn't that happen? And, but it didn't, and I'm still here. And I believe things happen for a reason. I don't believe in religion. I do believe we come from, I don't know if I call it a source. I do think it's feminine. I don't think it's like a God like in the Bible. And I'm not downing anyone that believes that. I'm just saying I don't believe that. And that sort of thing. But I believe we're reincarnated, but I can't say I have all the answers as to why I'm here and what this lifetime is about, or if some of you believe in reincarnation, maybe you can relate to that. Maybe if some of you believe like I do and in a source or something like that, maybe you can relate to that. You can comment on that if you'd like. But I just sit and I ponder this stuff, and I'm like, and that's when I just tell myself, well, if I do something to leave this place, delete, and say I'm done, then I don't have to put up with it. And that's what I think. I'm like, I don't have to put up with it at all. I don't have to worry about it. It's done. It's over with. I don't have to worry about the dysphoria. I don't have to go out. And I'm not saying I hate this job, because I don't hate this job. This job has been one of the better ones as far as open-mindedness and easygoing atmosphere and everything I've had in I don't know how long, but it's low pay. It's not full-time hours. I usually work 3 to 4 days a week, but I took the job because I could handle it. This is what a lot of people don't understand either, is that, well, you should work more. This is my dad's whole thing. No matter how many times he knows about my mental conditions or anything, and it seems like he acknowledges them, but it's not just him. It's a lot of people that it's no matter what they're going through either. what their mental condition is. They're conditioned to say, well, you should work more no matter what. You should have 3-4 jobs if need be. You should do this, you should do that. But if you're mentally unstable and you got a bunch of issues, sometimes if you don't even want to be here, then you're not going, it's a struggle to even get out of bed. And that's where I was at last July. That's before I got myself to go see somebody. And I'm glad I did that. But I'm just saying it was at a point where I didn't get this job till November. Even after I started therapy in July, I was in such a dark, low place. It wasn't until November I was motivated enough to be able to function enough to give. I had interviewed at a few places, but to be able to give a decent interview and find places that I could deal with outside of this tourist crowd. So, I guess what I'm saying though is, regardless, this job I can handle it because I'm not overworking myself because of my mental state. But at the same time, I just kind of stay in my bills are not completely caught up. I'm not as in a hole as I was, but I kind of scrape by. So, but at the same time, I know my mentality. I've been on an upward trajectory, but it was from a dark pit. And it takes everything I have sometimes to hold the job and do what I'm doing and try to move forward and try to get stronger. And a lot of people just don't get that. They don't care. They just act like you're a bum, or you're just no good. That's the mindset for people. Oh, you're just no good. You're lazy, whatever. Because mental illnesses, gender dysphoria, all this stuff, all these things are stigmatized, even in this modern age. All these things are so stigmatized. I don't ask for any of this, don't want it, but it's there. I cannot wish it away as people think you can wish it away. It's like beating a dead horse. People thinking you can wish away stuff, and you can't do it. Let's turn off that heater. But you can't wish your stuff away. So you can give me all of the Anthony Robbins stuff or any other guru stuff you want to give me, and I'm not saying I'm sure it helps people. I mean, I'm sure some people are able to do something with stuff like that, but not everybody can. I mean, everybody's different. I've said so many times that we all have different levels of what we can handle, different levels of trauma we can handle, and different levels of resiliency to whatever we've all been through. And we're all different. We're all in different bodies. We're all different people. We're all different things might be able to help us in different ways. But giving me a bunch of self-help quotes, most people you give a bunch of this stuff to, it's not going to just stop a severe depression for them, or just with a light switch turn off gender dysphoria, something as serious as that. And people that don't go through it don't understand how serious it is. It does cause you to not want to be here. You got to confront it, or you keep going in these downward spirals, which can get serious. So I guess I was just going update on that, even though I just put a video out. But I felt like getting on here and talking about this because I know so many go through it. But I was also going to talk about, I talked about women and admiration, and that's something I hadn't really touched on. And yes, I admire. I'm still mostly attracted to women, even though I would say I'm on the spectrum of bi, but women are still mostly what I'm attracted to. But I'm attracted, as I was telling my psychiatrist, I'm attracted though not just for beauty, or I mean, it's beauty, but it's also sensitivity of women. It's emotionality. It's also admiration of how different women look that I want to look like, and a lot of them, I would say, I look at different women as heroes. So I guess that's the best way to put it. And I guess that's one thing I hadn't really mentioned here of how how I feel like I want to live as a woman. I have those feelings of that. So I look to other women, I guess, as mentors or things I can take tips from or whatever. So I'm going on different subjects. I guess this is totally off topic from, I guess I'll get into something a little not so dark. What movies have you all seen lately? I had just watched Nosferatu with Lily Rose Depp. She's beautiful in that movie. I had not seen her, I don't think, in anything. Did a really great job, and I've never really watched the original. I think it was made in 1922, silent film. I think it was the first film that was based, I think it's loosely based on Dracula. I have seen the original Dracula. I think it was made in 1931 with Bela Lugosi. But I might watch the original Nosferatu because I think it's free on YouTube right now. But this movie was pretty good. The cinematography was amazing. The actors were good. Willem Dafoe was in it, and Lily Rose Depp, and then the guy, I forget his name right offhand, the guy that played Nosferatu, the vampire or the monster in it, is the guy that played the clown in the It remakes. And I thought about that because I saw It 2 in the movie theater when I was in Stockholm in Sweden. And I always thought that was a great experience. It was one of the many great experiences I had when I was in Stockholm, is going to one of the big movie theaters downtown there. It was probably opening, it might have been opening weekend we went, or it was the week after it had been out. And it was a full house there. It was either almost full or full. So I got to watch it with a Swedish audience, and I thought that was really a cool thing to do. I kind of sometimes lose my train of thought again. But anyway, side note too, why, just thinking about it, when I was there, something I've always remembered, it wasn't just in that movie theater, but it was in different places there in Sweden. Over here in the United States, and I don't know how deep I'll get into this, I was talking about the trans things. I did do a video on here about the trans restroom debate. But I was just thinking, over there, we make such an issue of it here, but over there, like in the movie theater, the restroom was unisex. So basically, you just, all the men and women just walk into one big open space with the sinks and the mirrors and everything, and then where you go to the bathroom is, you got your own room. You go into you have a door, like you would go into a little room, and the door goes all the way to the floor, and you shut the door and lock it. It's not like a stall like here. I've always hated the stalls that we have still in so many places, the classic stall with the door that just shuts with a little latch, and people can actually see through the cracks or up under it or whatever, but there you just go in and you got the full door shut. It's your total privacy. But nobody minded at all. There was just no no debate. Here we make such a huge debate, and I mean, I know because of the way our restrooms are set up, there's been a lot of controversies because, I mean, there have been guys that said they were trans and they had full beards and didn't look like they had done anything to themselves, and they're going in the women's restrooms. Now, I can understand why I would not want to be living as a woman. If I transition, I don't want to be living as a woman, be in the women's restroom, because I wouldn't even go in the women's restroom unless I knew I passed. I believe it's a privilege to be in the woman's world. If you're going to live as one, that's just how I feel. And I mean, some of these guys just saying they're trans, and then they got beards and body hair or whatever else. They obviously look like they haven't done anything but putting on some women's clothes and walking in there without any signs of any kind of blending or transition at all. That's threatening to women. But I guess what I'm saying is that's some of the reason why we have controversy here. But over in Sweden, it's just something I noticed where most of the places had that unisex thing going on, and nobody seemed to mind. Now, I'm not saying none of the citizens minded. I don't know, but I'm just saying it just seemed like a very normal thing over there. But here we just have such issues with women's spaces, basically, but now on the other flip side of this, I guess I will get into it a little bit because I brought it up. On the flip side of this, I've had this discussion with my mom too. I don't like what the conservatives in our country are doing with saying, coming down on trans so much to the point of where, you can't go in the restroom. Well, I mean, you can't go in the restroom of the gender you're living as, but the thing is, if you're passing, if you say you're a trans male, if you are a trans male and you got facial hair and all this stuff, it's going to be dangerous. It's not going to be good for you to go in the women's restroom if you're a biological female, but you totally pass as a male. You're going to threaten the women as well. Just like I was talking about men who say they're trans females but look totally like men who have not done anything to transition. That's threatening to women. It would be the same if you force a trans male to go in the women's restroom. And the thing is, how would you know anyway? You wouldn't know. This is why I was telling my mom. I said the thing is, as long as they're minding their business, they pass and they go into the restroom that they look like, nobody's going to know in the first place. So it's kind of a moot point in that way. And same thing for women. If you were to find a way to force trans women that look like women to go into a men's space, you're putting them in danger. There's no common sense with any of that. And that's some of the stuff we put up with here that doesn't make sense. Stuff like that doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying I have a full solution to everything. Was just touching on the subject. But getting back to circle back around to Nosferatu, and that's really the newest movie I've watched. The cinematography was great, and I'm thinking about watching there's a new one on Netflix, and it has to do, and I can't remember the name of it, maybe you guys know, has to do with AI and Millie Bobby Brown. I think that's her name, from Stranger Things, which I really like that show. Can't wait till that next season comes out. I think she's in this new movie about AI and robots. I might check that out. I just watched the newest Charles Manson documentary they did on Netflix, and that was pretty good. But I really haven't watched much else. I guess because I've been going through these depressive spirals and I haven't been able to concentrate on a lot. I listen to music because it's easier to watch music videos sometimes, or listen to music too to sometimes I dissociate with that, I guess, because it's easier to pay attention for a short period to songs. But anyway, thank all of you for being here. Any of you that watch my full videos, you watch me ramble on, thanks for being here. And feel free to comment, and I will talk to you guys later on. Bye.